When you think of an aircraft carrier, the first images that come to mind are probably fighter jets roaring down the deck. Sailors in colorful jerseys guiding aircraft into place, and the sheer size of the ship itself cutting through the ocean, and all of that is impressive, no doubt. But there is something on board a U.S. aircraft carrier that blows people away every time they see it in action. Something so unique and so technically brilliant that it almost feels like science fiction brought to life. I'm talking about the catapult launch system, the incredible piece of engineering that literally hurls an aircraft from a standstill to takeoff speed in just a couple of seconds. It is one of the most remarkable demonstrations of controlled power you can find anywhere in the world. To really understand why this is so mind-blowing, you first need to get a sense of what's at stake. An aircraft carrier's flight deck is about 1,000 feet long! Which sounds huge until you realize that a fully loaded fighter jet, like the FA-18 Super Hornet, or the brand new F-35C Lightning II normally requires over 7,000 feet of runway to take off from land. That's 7 times longer than the entire ship. So how do you get a jet designed for long, flat runways to safely fly off the deck of a moving ship in the middle of the ocean? The answer is the catapult system. Without it, an aircraft carrier would be nothing more than a floating parking lot for planes. For decades, U.S. Navy carriers relied on steam catapults. These were essentially massive cylinders beneath the deck where high-pressure steam built up, pushing a piston connected to a shuttle on the surface. That shuttle was locked onto the nose gear of the jet, and when the steam was released, it shot forward, dragging the aircraft with it. In about 2 seconds, the plane went from 0 to roughly 170 miles per hour. Just enough to generate the lift needed for the wings to pull it into the sky. That system worked reliably for generations. From the early jet age in the 1950s all the way into the early 2000s. It was brutally effective, but it had its drawbacks. Steam catapults were heavy, maintenance intensive, and not particularly gentle on the aircraft. The jolt at launch put enormous strain on the landing gear, the fuselage, and even the pilot's body. Now, what makes the latest carriers, like the USS Gerald R. Ford, so revolutionary is that they've traded steam for something far cooler. Electromagnetic launch technology. The system is called EMALS, which stands for Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, and it works on principles very similar to a railgun or a magnetic roller coaster ride. Instead of building up pressure and releasing steam, EMALS uses a series of linear induction motors embedded in the flight deck. These motors generate a moving magnetic field that accelerates the shuttle down the track. Imagine the smooth pull of a magnetic train or the way a maglev coaster launches at an amusement park. And then scale that up to military hardware capable of hurling a 30-ton aircraft off the deck of a ship. That is what EMALS does, and it does it better than steam ever could. What's so impressive about EMALS isn't just that it launches planes, but how precisely it can do it. Steam catapults were basically all or nothing. Once you hit that button, the system delivered a massive surge of energy with limited ability to adjust. EMALS, on the other hand, can be fine-tuned in real time. That means lighter aircraft, like drones or smaller support planes, can be launched with exactly the right amount of force instead of being slammed with the same power needed for a heavy fighter jet. This flexibility makes it much easier to operate a diverse air wing, and it dramatically reduces wear and tear on the aircraft. The smoother acceleration also means pilots experience less violent stress during launch, which is both safer and more comfortable. But let us take a step back and really paint the picture of what it looks and feels like. Imagine standing on the flight deck of a carrier during launch operations. The ship is alive with movement sailors, in vests of different colors, hustling around with precision. Jet engines screaming. The salty wind whipping across the deck. A fighter jet taxis into position, nose pointed straight down the runway, that is, in reality, no longer than a city block. Its nose gear is locked into the shuttle. You see the pilot run through the checklists, control surfaces moving up and down, the canopy reflecting the sun. The deck crew kneels, gives the final signals, and suddenly the jet roars to full throttle. But it doesn't move at least not yet. Then, with a gesture from the catapult officer, the system engages. In less than 3 seconds, that fighter explodes forward, going from motionless to well over 150 miles per hour. The nose lifts, the wings bite into the air, and the jet climbs off the deck as if it were slingshotted by a giant invisible hand. The sheer violence of the acceleration is something that leaves even veteran sailors speechless. And for a pilot inside the cockpit, it's like being punched into the sky by raw physics. This moment, this incredible launch, is the coolest thing that happens on a US aircraft carrier. But there's more to it than just the spectacle. The performance aspects of EMALS are game-changing for naval aviation. For one, it increases the sortie rate, the number of aircraft that can be launched in a given amount of time. The old steam systems required cool-down periods and careful pressure management, which slowed down operations. EMALS is electrically driven, so it can reset much faster, allowing more planes to be launched in quick succession. That translates directly into combat power, because an aircraft carrier's primary mission is to project air superiority anywhere in the world. If you can get more fighters into the air more quickly, you're more effective in both offensive and defensive operations. Another design advantage is weight savings. Steam catapults required massive piping, boilers, and support systems that took up space and added thousands of tons to the ship's displacement. EMALS, while still a complex system, is lighter and more compact. That frees up room and reduces strain on the carrier's overall design. The Ford-class carriers were specifically built around this technology, incorporating advanced nuclear reactors that generate the huge amounts of electricity needed, not just for EMALS, but also for future systems like directed energy weapons. So, EMALS, just about launching planes, it's as a cornerstone of how the Navy is preparing for the next era of warfare. And speaking of design, let us not overlook the sheer ingenuity of how all this is integrated into a moving platform at sea. Aircraft carriers are essentially floating cities, with 5,000 sailors on board, nuclear reactors generating power, kitchens feeding thousands of meals a day, and a runway that rises and falls with the motion of the waves. To maintain precision in launching jets under those conditions is an extraordinary feat of engineering. The catapult system must synchronize with the aircraft's power, the pilot's timing, and the ship's pitch and roll, all within fractions of a second. It is controlled chaos, choreographed to perfection. Of course, there are challenges. EMALS is a newer system, and like any cutting-edge technology, it has faced growing pains. Early tests revealed issues with reliability, and there were concerns about how quickly maintenance could be performed at sea, but the Navy has been steadily improving the system, ironing out the bugs, and increasing its operational readiness. The long-term benefits far outweigh the teething problems. This is technology that opens the door to more versatile carrier air wings, including the ability to launch future unmanned combat aircraft that may not have been compatible with steam catapults. Beyond the technical side, there's the human element. Pilots describe the EMALS launch as smoother but still incredibly intense. 1 second you're strapped into the cockpit, staring at the horizon, and the next you're pinned to your seat as the G-forces slam into your body. It's not just a thrill ride. It's the beginning of a mission that could last hours, stretching hundreds of miles into contested airspace. For the crew on deck, every successful launch is the product of training, coordination, and trust. One misstep could be catastrophic, but when everything works as designed, it is one of the most breathtaking sights in modern military operations. And let's not forget the landing side of the equation, which pairs with the launch system to make carrier aviation possible at all. While the catapult throws the plane into the sky, the arresting gear hauls it back down, catching the tailhook and bringing the jet from 150 miles per hour to zero in a space shorter than a football field. Together, the launch and recovery systems are what make an aircraft carrier a true floating airbase, capable of projecting power anywhere in the world without relying on foreign runways. The unique selling point here, the reason this system stands out, is that no other country has perfected this combination of scale, technology, and operational expertise. Other navies operate carriers, yes, but the U.S. Navy's nuclear-powered supercarriers with advanced electromagnetic launch systems are in a league of their own. They represent the pinnacle of naval aviation, a blend of brute force and fine control that allows the United States to field air power globally with unmatched flexibility. Watching it in action, it almost feels like a magic trick. How can something so massive and so heavy suddenly leap into the sky from such a short strip of deck? The answer is physics, engineering, and decades of innovation all coming together in one heart-stopping moment. And that's why, when people ask what the coolest thing about an aircraft carrier is, it isn't just the size of the ship, or the number of planes it carries, or even the advanced weapons on board. It's that moment when a fighter jet is hurled into the sky by the invisible hand of electromagnetic force. A moment where human ingenuity conquers the limitations of nature and turns a moving slab of steel in the ocean into the most powerful runway on Earth.